Now, a vision, if you read the leadership literature, a vision is a clear picture of a preferred future. Visions are born in a man or a woman who feels a deep tension between the way things are and the way things could be. Visions begin with a deep clarity that there is something wrong with the way things are. The walls are broken down. The walls of a city, the walls in your life. And then that morphs into a deep sense of the way things should be and could be. Vision demands change. Vision implies movement. Vision invites people to be different in their priorities, in their timing, and in their investments. And much study has been done on the concept of vision for leaders, vision casting, vision accomplishment, but much less work has been done asking the question, what comes before the vision strikes? What immediately precedes a vision? Bill Hybels has coined a phrase for this that I really like, and it's the phrase, holy discontent. Everybody say, holy discontent. Holy discontent. Not like holy discontent Batman. Holy discontent as a noun. In order to help illustrate this a little bit, I'm going to call back into the Wayback Machine of my past childhood. And some of you I know are going to be too young to recognize this, but in my childhood, there was a certain cartoon character that many of the kids liked. His name was Popeye. Popeye the Sailor Man. And Popeye the Sailor Man was a guy who was tough, but he always did the right things, and his biggest trademark was unnaturally large forearms. Not exactly sure how that helped him in a battle, but he always had those forearms with the anchors on them. And Popeye had a girlfriend that he defended. Her name was Olive Oyl. Olive Oyl. And man, she was a looker, right? She came across the street, men would whistle, dogs would bark, and cars would screech their tires in delight. Now, Popeye, in nearly every episode, has something that frustrates him, and he grumbles about it. And then that thing continues to accelerate. Oftentimes it was the honor of his girl, Olive Oyl, that was at stake. And at some point in every episode, he would say the same line, "That's all I can stand. I can't stand no more." You guys remember that in the episodes? And at that point, he would blow his cork and go after the bad guy. I think this is a great representation of holy discontent. He said, there's something wrong in this world, and I just can't let it go. I just can't stand by and watch that thing continue to happen. And what precedes vision is that same kind of thing. It's a holy discontent that what we're experiencing now is just wrong. It's just wrong. Holy discontent is not passing. A holy discontent grips your heart. A holy discontent gives a leader a reason to cast a vision and people a reason to follow him. So I want to ask you an important question today, and that is, what is your holy discontent? This is a question that's not only going to be relevant this morning, but through our whole series. What is your holy discontent? What are the broken walls that you see that these have to be rebuilt? They just have to. I can't stand standing by anymore. I remember when I came here, there was a statistic that gripped our church and gripped my heart. About 8 years ago, when I was just applying for this role, somebody stood up on this very stage and they said, 1 in 10 women in the country of Mali dies in childbearing. And we just can't sit idly by anymore and watch that kind of thing happen. It's gripped our church's heart. For me, a key thing that grips my heart over and over is the idea that there's 500,000 people in Omaha that are headed to a Christless eternity. This is a big deal for me because this is my city, my turf. It's happening on my watch. People are headed away from Jesus and not towards him. And in my soul, I say, this is not all right. I can't stand no more. Others of you may be gripped by the idea that Omaha has the highest child poverty rate in the nation, or that young girls are trapped in slavery and sold to men over and over and over, or that there's starving kids, or lack of education, poverty, lack of community, addictions, emotional despair, crooked politicians, over-entertained and under-challenged young people who are drifting from their moorings. I don't know what it is, but I want you to ask that of yourself. What is it that is my holy discontent? What do you get wrecked about? What makes you weep What makes you weep? This is a question to wrestle with all week, all month, all series long. Maybe your holy discontent is not with something that's out there. Maybe your holy discontent is in here. There's something in your life that's wrong, and you say, I just can't stand living that way anymore. I've got to make that right. Maybe you look back over your life and there's a stream of broken people in your wake, people you've wounded. Maybe you're finding yourself $20,000 in credit card debt, but still buying lattes and new skirts. Maybe you've overeaten for so long that you've just been diagnosed with diabetes, or maybe your wife just told you that she's leaving if you don't get your addiction straightened out. I don't know what it is for you, but I want you to wrestle with this idea. What is my holy discontent? What is it? And when you find it, rearrange your life in order to get near to it so it'll bother you even more to the deepness of your core. So you can see it up close and personal. If your holy discontent is kids in poverty, then volunteer at Compass to tutor a kid or take on an inner city basketball team coaching job. If it's trafficking, well, hang out with some former victims. If it's your debt, look at your bank accounts and credit card statements and let the reality strike you in the face when you think about buying that next thing. I know that my holy discontent is a lot around lost people and around churches that are just folding in the wake of our society, just giving up and giving in. It drives me crazy. I went back a few years ago to look at the church that I grew up in. I thought it'd be a fun trip down memory lane. I might introduce myself to whoever the new pastor is there at that church and poke around and look at the things that had shaped me in my childhood. But I never made it into the parking lot because when I drove up, the sign up front didn't say Countryside Chapel anymore. And it didn't say Hope Fellowship Church, the name they picked after I left. Instead, it said Islamic Studies Center. And it broke my heart. I couldn't even pull in the driveway. It was like pools of blackness instantly filled my brain. I drove a block and a half to the Dunkin' Donuts parking lot, and I just wept. I just wept. I remember thinking, what happens to a redemptive community that I remember at one point was sending out missionaries and giving sacrificially and reaching out to the neighborhood? What happens to that kind of a community that they would devolve to such a place that they would sell their building to a group of people that are enemies of the cross of Jesus? And I asked God in that moment, sitting in that parking lot, that I would always lead or at least be a part of a community, a church community that loved the lost, that healed the hurting, the broken, and never, ever gave in to the forces of darkness. Guys, this is my holy discontent. And I want to ask you, what's your holy discontent? What is it? It drove me to prayer. It drove Nehemiah to prayer as well.